afternoon, everyone. So in this next section, we're going to be taking just a little bit of time to look at sort of the retailer's response to this dramatically changing landscape, and specifically focused on convenience retailers. So as we kind of combed through and tried to capture a lot of the best practice we observed in the market, they really fell into kind of four key categories of response. First was sort of a radical change in messaging as marketers that we as an industry had to do with our consumers. The second is obviously a change in our customer focus and having to radically react to consumers' changing needs. And then finally, the two interesting kind of additional points are a real shift in our community focus and a real shift in our employee focus. First, let's talk a little bit about the changes to our messaging to our customers. So by now, we've all seen these types of communications, and either as retailers, we've crafted these and sent these out to keep our customers aware of the changes as retailers were making, or as consumers, we've all received these from our favorite brands. As we combed through a myriad of these communications specific to convenience retail, we really tried to collect what we thought were the best practices. And the reality is these best practices, while we're talking about these in terms of retailer response, these best practices will absolutely apply to recovery as well. So first, what we saw was make sure to reinforce your efforts without being too generic. Definitely a lot of generic messaging out there about response, which kind of leads to point number two. Really lead with those changes that directly impact your customer. Things such as changes to your hours of operation, changes to dine-in protocols, location closures, any changes to your loyalty program, such as expiration of rewards or extending those. Number three is making sure to update those communications appropriately and dynamically. So it's important to be able to point your customer to a location or train your customer to go to a location where they can get those dynamic updates. Email is a great medium for periodic communications, but through those emails, ideally you're directing them to a more dynamic location, such as your website, such as your mobile application or social media pages. The fourth key best practice we saw is personalizing the communication. We really saw a lot of great communications out there. By personalization, having someone of some kind of significance in the organization sending it out really observed as a best practice. And finally, adjusting those communications appropriately. Really saw as our situation got severe very quickly, it was very important that we adjusted that messaging very quickly. Really saw some retailers somewhat slow to adapt, still had heavy promotional messaging when it was a time when it was appropriate to get relatively serious with our customer. So the first key focus that I want to showcase here is a community focus. And what we really saw from some of the great convenience retailers out there was really sort of radically shifting their message away from their own brand and trying to promote their own brand sales to a focus on community. So I've pulled out a couple of great examples here. And really a lot of that focus is about giving back to healthcare workers or first responders that are dealing with this crisis. So a couple of great examples here, both Circle K and EG Group offering free coffee and fountain drinks to medical workers, first responders, and that generally expands to military personnel, but really a lot of the key marketing messages around those healthcare workers. Additionally, I want to call out Circle K. Love this example. They're committing to serve 25 million meals through their partnership with Feeding America. Also, I'd encourage you, if you have not already, to check out Circle K's website. Really a great example of adjusting messaging appropriately and really hitting on a lot of those key best practices. Next example, I love this one, is our friends over at Duck Through Rewards. This is the Jernigan Oil folks, is offering to their loyalty program where consumers can actually use their loyalty points and convert those into a donation for the World Health Organization. So very timely, very appropriate way to allow consumers to feel good about converting their points. It's obviously a win-win for the retailer too, because obviously retailers don't like to carry a points liability for long periods of times, and retailers are often looking for good ways to burn those a little bit faster. Okay, next key focus area is a focus on employees. I've really loved a lot of the shift in messaging and focus to retailers' employees. So there's dozens of great examples out there, but I really like this one. Thanks to our friends over at Bell Stores for allowing us to use this. What they're doing is they're offering their employees 50% off kind of these key essential items, grocery essential items, deli, milk, salad, snacks, etc. Because what they know is those employees have to be in their stores to keep those stores. But what they're trying to do is trying to minimize the amount of other places they need to go. So great example of really giving them a pretty rich discount on those items so they can minimize their trips elsewhere. Also a nice, clever use of their Bell Buddy Rewards platform, essentially using a consumer tiering methodology or approach, but really using it for their employees as opposed to consumers. Kind of the final key area is, and probably the most important, is changing to meet our customers' needs. So a couple great examples here, and I wanted to lead with changes to your reward expiration points. Okay, so saw, again, probably dozens of great examples in the marketplace. I've pulled a couple here that I love. On the left-hand side, United Dairy Farmers through their U-Drive program, very simple messaging, very customer-focused, basically letting customers know they'll extend those rewards. This example shows that any points will be extended to May 31st, and likely that retailer will be doing that until we pull ourselves out of this crisis. On the right-hand side, nice example of a personalized communication. This is sent from Jim Allen, the Chief Marketing Officer at Sprint Foods, letting the customer know, kind of amongst other things, they're going to be giving them an additional 60 days to redeem their rewards until they can get through the crisis, because they know that consumer shopping patterns have dictated that need. So finally, and probably most pervasive through the change in customer focus and response and corresponding messaging, is this concept of contactless interaction. So it's really important that your customers feel safe and can still interact with your brand in a safe manner. And so the industry has had to react relatively quickly. As we've seen, those retailers that already had a lot of these platforms in place really were some of the initial beneficiaries of platforms such as delivery. So some great examples here. On the left-hand side is QT Quick Trip, offering online pickup. We can order through your app. 7-Eleven, which most of the folks probably on the call are aware of, 7-Eleven has really been out in front of the industry, leading in terms of a lot of these digital platforms and enhancements. So nice job here, and I do want to call out on their 7 Now is offering free delivery. So that's another observed best practice, not just in our industry, but across the board, is either offering free delivery or significantly reduced delivery costs. So those delivery costs are definitely important in the long run for making these platforms viable and operational, but a nice reduction in the short term to allow consumers to really adapt and feel good about using those platforms. Shout out to Come and Go, using their app where you can order pizzas and come and pick it up. Far right-hand side, really love this marketing. This is Casey's. If you're not familiar with Casey's, very well-developed pizza business in their local markets. Love the marketing here. There's great use, if you look in the middle of the email on the far right-hand side, of imagery, very simple for the customer to understand that they can still get their Casey's pizzas with limited contact or interaction with the delivery driver. Finally, a couple of other great examples of a little more creative contactless solutions. On the right-hand side is Racetrack, promoting what they call their grab-and-go boxes. So all locations have these grab-and-go boxes where you can actually interact with the store employee without actually having to go inside the store. So likely this infrastructure was already in place. It's likely built more for safety employee after hours, those sorts of things. However, great repositioning and reacting to customers' needs by positioning it as a way where retailers can feel safe about limited contact with the store employee. And then on the left-hand side, and this is probably my favorite example of this entire presentation, is Come and Go, and really proving to us that you can react and you can provide service to your customers, and it doesn't have to involve a really expensive technology solution. So what they've done for a limited amount of time is they've offered full service customers at their pump. They've also committed that those store associates would get items for them inside the store. So really love this. Really want to call out the marketing too. Full service is back. This is a great example of leading with what's important to the customer, and the imagery is spot on. Really using this nice, nostalgic, feel safe imagery. I thought was great. The white shirt going back to the old grocery store days. Love that. So shout out and kudos to Come and Go.